The Man Standing on the Road, *. This was sent to us by Kyle D. from Pennsylvania, USA. If you'd like to share your own story, feel free to email it to us. Our email is in the video and channel description. Back in 2022, I was driving home from a weekend trip to the mountains in West Virginia. It was around 1:45 a.m., and I was on a long, winding road that cut through miles of forest. There weren't any street lights, no houses nearby, and I hadn't seen another car for at least an hour. I had music playing low and my high beams on. Everything felt calm until it didn't. As I came around a sharp bend, I saw something that made me slam on my brakes. There was a man standing in the middle of the road. He wasn't moving, just standing there with his arms by his side. He was wearing what looked like an old, torn hoodie and jeans. His face was completely shadowed. I honked, but he didn't react. He didn't flinch. He just stared. I couldn't even see his eyes. I backed up slowly and flashed my lights at him, hoping he'd move. Instead, he started walking toward me. Not running, not limping, just walking. One slow, steady step at a time. I put the car in reverse and backed up around the curve, heart racing, hands shaking. Then I remembered there was a side road I passed about a mile back. I just had to make it there, and I could take the longer route home. I kept reversing, eyes on him. He kept walking. No expression, no rush, just walking. As I finally turned the car around and started driving forward, I looked in my rear-view mirror. He was gone. I didn't stop again. I didn't look back. I just kept driving until I reached a gas station almost 40 minutes away. I sat there for an hour trying to calm down, telling myself it was just a crazy guy, or maybe someone messing around. A week later, I told my coworker about what happened. She grew up near that area. When I told her the name of the road, she went completely still. "You saw him too," she said. I asked what she meant, and she told me about a local story, the legend of a man who was hit by a car on that road decades ago. They say he appears to lone drivers late at night, always standing in the middle of the road, always walking toward the car, but never quite reaching it. No one knows what happens if you let him. The end. The highway shadow that followed me, *. This was sent to us by Ethan S. from Ohio, USA. If you'd like to share your own story, feel free to email it to us. Our email is in the video and channel description. A few years back, I was driving from Columbus to Cincinnati late at night after visiting my parents. It was around 2:15 a.m., and the interstate was nearly empty. Just me, a few trucks, and the darkness stretching for miles ahead. Everything was fine until I noticed a car behind me. It didn't have its headlights on. It was just a dark silhouette, tailing me at a steady pace. I thought maybe the driver forgot to turn on their lights, so I slowed down a bit to let them pass. But they didn't. They slowed down too, matching my speed exactly. I changed lanes. They did too. I sped up. They followed. At that point, I started to feel genuinely uneasy. I was in the middle of nowhere, and this car was mimicking my every move without lights. I couldn't make out the driver. It was like the car was just shadow. Finally, I took an exit without signaling, just to throw them off. The road led to a small town with a 24-hour diner. I pulled into the parking lot, heart racing. I looked in my mirror. The shadow car never exited. It stayed on the highway. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was just some random weirdo or a coincidence. But here's the part that still gives me chills. When I got out to stretch my legs, I noticed a handprint on the rear passenger window. A long, smeared handprint, like someone had been dragging their fingers across the glass. I hadn't picked anyone up, and I know for a fact that handprint wasn't there earlier. They say there's a legend on that stretch of highway of a shadow hitchhiker who follows lone drivers, hoping one of them will stop long enough for him to climb in and never leave. The end. The Girl on the Side of the Road. This was sent to us by Ryan T. from Michigan, USA. If you'd like to share your own story, feel free to email it to us. Our email is in the video and channel description. It was fall of 2021. I was driving back home after a late shift, taking the back roads through the countryside outside Ann Arbor. The trees were bare, the air cold, and fog hung low over the fields. It was about 1 a.m., and I hadn't passed another car in a long time. Then I saw her, a girl, maybe in her early 20s, standing on the side of the road in a white dress. No shoes, no jacket. Her head was tilted down, hair covering most of her face. I slowed down, unsure what to do. Maybe she was in trouble, but something about it felt wrong. Her posture, her stillness, it didn't look natural. I rolled down the window a little and called out, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" She didn't respond. She didn't even move. I was about to drive off when she lifted her head slowly, and I swear to God, her eyes were completely black. No whites, no pupils, just black. I floored it. I didn't look back. I couldn't. My hands were shaking, and I was gripping the wheel like my life depended on it. I didn't stop until I reached a well-lit gas station 15 minutes away. When I told the clerk what I'd seen, he gave me a tired look and just said, "You took Hollow Creek Road, didn't you?" Apparently, people have been seeing the same girl there for years. Always alone, always in white, always barefoot. Some say she was a local who was killed by a hit-and-run driver decades ago. But others say she was never alive to begin with. The end. The gas station that wasn't there, asterisk. This was sent us by Lucas H. from Illinois, USA. If you'd like to share your own story, feel free to email it to us. Our email is in the video and channel description. This happened to me during a cross-country road trip in 2020. I was moving from Chicago to Seattle and decided to take the scenic route through the Midwest, stopping at random small towns along the way. One night, somewhere in South Dakota, I was running low on gas and still had a long way to go until the next big town. It was around 11:45 p.m. No lights, no cars, just open road and darkness. I was starting to get anxious when I saw a glowing sign up ahead, an old-fashioned gas, food, lodging neon flickering in the dark. I pulled in without hesitation. The place looked stuck in time. It had that 1950s diner aesthetic. The pumps were old school, the kind with spinning numbers. A man in a jumpsuit came out to fill me up, which caught me off guard. Who does full service anymore? He didn't say a word, just nodded at me and started pumping gas. I went inside to grab a snack. The inside was even weirder, dimly lit, filled with outdated brands I hadn't seen in decades. A dusty glass case of pastries, a fridge humming too loudly, and behind the counter was a woman with a fixed smile that didn't reach her eyes. I grabbed a soda and asked if there was a restroom. She pointed to the back. The hallway was long, *2* long for such a small building. As I walked, the air got colder. I swear the lights started to flicker. And then I heard it. Whispers. Dozens of them. Low, muffled voices, like people talking behind a wall. I froze. The hallway had no doors, just one at the very end. I turned around and walked straight back to the front, tossed a $5 on the counter without saying a word, and bolted for my car. The man at the pump was gone. The hose was still in my tank, gas flowing, but no one was there. I yanked it out, jumped in, and peeled out of that place like hell was behind me. I didn't stop until I reached a well-known town an hour later. At a real gas station, I told the clerk about the place, and he just stared at me. "There's no gas station out there," he said. "Hasn't been for over 40 years. It burned down in the 80s. Everyone inside died." I checked my mileage the next morning. My tank was full. To this day, I have no idea who or what filled it. The end. The Man Who Was Already in My Backseat, asterisk. This was sent us by Zach M. from Colorado, USA. If you'd like to share your own story, feel free to email it to us. Our email is in the video and channel description. It was the winter of 2019. I had just finished visiting my sister in Boulder, Colorado, and I was driving back home to Grand Junction. It was about a 4-hour drive through mountains. And because I left a little later than I planned, I found myself deep in the Rockies as the sun disappeared. If you've ever driven those winding mountain roads at night, you know how eerie it gets. No cell service, no gas stations or miles, just pine trees and pitch-black curves that stretch forever. Snow had just started falling, light at first, but steady. My old Honda Civic wasn't exactly built for this, so I kept my speed low and focused. About halfway through the trip, I realized I hadn't seen another car in almost 45 minutes. That's when my headlight beams caught something on the side of the road. A man. He was standing in the snow, alone, facing the trees with his back to the road. No jacket, just a white t-shirt and jeans. His skin looked pale. Too pale. I slowed down, instinctively, wondering if he needed help. But the second my headlights fully hit him, he turned around and started smiling. Not waving, not calling out, just smiling, wide, unblinking. I floored it. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I just kept driving, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Eventually, the road smoothed out, and the snow started to let up. I tried to convince myself it was just some drugged-out guy, or maybe a prankster, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. About 20 minutes later, I glanced at my rear-view mirror and nearly swerved off the road. There was a face in my back seat, just barely visible in the darkness, a pale, smiling face, watching me. I slammed the brakes and jumped out of the car, leaving the door wide open. I stood in the middle of the road, shaking, headlights cutting to the falling snow. I grabbed my phone, but of course, no signal. I circled the car slowly, hard in my throat. Every window was fogged from the inside. I opened the back door with a trembling hand. Nothing. Empty. Back seat totally empty. I stood there for 5 minutes, too afraid to get back in. Eventually, I convinced myself I was overtired, sleep-deprived, seeing things. I got back in, locked the doors, and didn't stop again until I reached home around 3:30 a.m. Here's where it gets worse. The next morning, I went to clean the snow off my car. That's when I noticed something inside the rear window, a long vertical smear, like someone had pressed their face against the glass and slowly slid downward. I hadn't seen it the night before. I still drive that car, but I never take those mountain roads alone anymore. And to this day, sometimes when I check my mirror at night, I catch a glimpse of something in the back seat, just watching. The end.